I think all of it is super important. And I think we miss a real opportunity that every school does not have a specific class besides a media production class, writing or video or graphics, that even just discusses these issues and then allow kids to be the creators themselves. Because I'll tell you, my entire career, kids became more media literate when they started creating media themselves. They saw what it took to make in the kitchen. They saw all the ingredients and they think about things and watch things. I remember I would always feel like I had won. I was a success when a kid would come into my class and be like, Mr. Goble, you ruined television for me forever.
You are listening to the Global CTE Podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisom.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Global CTE Podcast. I'm your host, Sylvester Chisom. This is the place where I introduce the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, and the innovators. Today is no different. I have my good friend, Don Goble, here. Now, let me tell you about Don. Now, this is going to be a special treat for all my media folks. Don is a nationally recognized educator and media innovator with decades of experience in teaching, storytelling, and digital production. As the creator of the DS Academy curriculum, Don has transformed his high school classroom into a thriving hub of creativity and collaboration, where students produced professional-grade broadcasts, documentaries, animations, and live scoreboard operations. His visionary approach empowers students of all backgrounds to explore careers in journalism, film, sports media, and digital branding. Don's curriculum has now been adopted by schools nationwide through digital scoreboards. Built on inclusivity and real-world application, DS Academy has helped students develop technical skills, confidence, and a sense of belonging. His legacy is one of impact, innovation, and opportunity, opening doors for students to tell their stories and shape the future of media. Don, welcome to the show, man.
Sylvester, it is an honor to be here with you talking today. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super pumped about this conversation. It's always great when a guest comes highly referred from another guest. So our mutual friend, Don Wettrick out of Indiana, he's crushing it, doing amazing. He say, do you know the other Don? I was like, he was in St. Louis. I was like, what? I was like, how crazy of a connection. And then, meeting other people, and they're like, oh yeah, I use this stuff for my media class. And so I'm like, Don, thanks for coming, man. Excited to have you.
It's great. And it's a great lesson of networking, right? To be able to bring people together who are making impacts in ways we didn't maybe know about yesterday. And now we do today, and reaching out to really have that permeate. So thankful to Don for bringing us together in a small world, how we are here today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm grateful for our network of innovators in education pushing the ball forward. But before we go too deep into DS Academy and all the great stuff you're doing, what's the origin story, man? Like, how you get here?
I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be 53 this year, and I was not planning on being an educator. I'll tell you that. Sylvester, I was not a good student. I struggled in school, but I found my passion in the 80s in radio and television and media. I was an athlete, loved playing, had a couple of injuries, and but always watched TV, listened on the radio, was fascinated maybe with the radio sometimes even more than the TV, how they just created this picture in your mind of what was happening. And so I got involved in Chicago in the 80s, radio, TV, high school, decided I was going to go to university for that, radio and TV. And I did, went to Bradley University, and my athletic career ended, but I continued to broadcast it, did sports media radio. And that was my first gig. I got hired my senior year, did radio, talk radio and television commercials right out of college. And I thought that was it. That is what I was going to do. And, $14,000 a year for 3 years, working, pretty much every day of the year, especially holidays. I moved to get past that, tried to find a better gig. Didn't happen. So I'm from Chicago originally. And I had friends in their early 20s making six figures working for a tech company. And you better believe I jumped on that train.
Yeah.
So I did. Moved back to Chicago, did that for a few years. Hit the downturn right after 2001, September 11th, when the tech industry really went down, laid off. And I had a good friend say, what was it about your jobs that you enjoyed? And it was always about training. I always taught people different skills, trained people on whatever, every job I had. And so you ought to try teaching. You could be a coach, you could do what you love with media. And so I went back to school and I did that. And here, over 25 years later, I retired early from the state of Missouri education system, where I taught high school for over 20 years, 19 at Ladue High School in St. Louis. And now here I am teaching educators all over the country about the lessons that I created, developed, borrowed, begged, stole. Saw you work for kids for all those years. And it's really cool to kind of be in the position I am now.
That's awesome, man. So let's go to that classroom experience.
Yes.
I'm curious, when did you first kind of discover like the power of media education and how it could help engage students?
Well, it started with me. My school had a radio station and a television station in the 80s, unheard of. But, I had a guy who built it on his own and loved it. And when I decided I wanted to get into teaching, I wanted to give an experience for students that I felt like I'd never had, except when I was in that room. And when I was in college, when I was with my media professors, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give that creative space that was outside the norm of a rigid school, that, environment that I thought could inspire others. And so when I got hired at Ladue, we had a similar space. It was a TV studio. And the principal was like, but we're not using it to its full potential. So either use it or lose it. And I was like, we're going to use it. And it really was the first year that I saw kids really, my vision of having them feel success through failure, but through create, and not be rigid with the timelines of lecture and test. And it felt really good. And so starting with 7 kids, and then we moved up to 12. And then by year 3, I had 30 kids. Wow. And we kept doubling or tripling every single year. And it was because we had a vision of not just creating a class in school, but creating a production. Schools had newspapers and yearbooks, and they have the theater department, and they have every athletic team and club and organization. I wanted to have a media department. I wanted to have a media program, and I wanted kids to be the initiative and the thrust of it, from creating the branding to creating the shows, creating the content. And I would be like their program director, right? Their station manager that was guiding and leading them. And, it just exploded. And so back in, I guess it was about 2017, our school purchased, at the time, the largest scoreboard in the state of Missouri. Digital scoreboard. It was going to be able to play video and graphics and animations during games. It was going to be in a brand new stadium with lights for the first time. And our principal and AD came to me and said, Don, you're the video guy. Now what do we do? Right? Can you have your kids do this? And I was like, well, yes. And I think, though, I need to create a different pathway, because my kids were making TV shows and films and didn't focus on sports. And knowing my background, I thought, okay, let's infuse a sports media class. So I followed the same model of starting small and gaining some success, however, but building huge visibility. So like when we started creating student broadcasts, this was back in 2005, 2006. YouTube was just starting. Yeah. There was a local website that wanted to go national called SchoolTube, which is not around anymore. But at the time, they wanted to promote student work. So I was like, yes, we're going to put it out there. And these kids are going to be vulnerable, and they're going to be scared, and they're going to be like, my homework and projects are going on the web. Yeah. Yes. And we took a risk, and I got the testimonials from the kids, like their motivation and inspiration went through the roof. So we maintained that process every single year that I taught. Kids were going to publish their work. It was either going on the web, it was going on a digital website later, and then social media in schools sort of became acceptable. We had to work around those hurdles. And I took the same motivation then when the scoreboard came in and said, all right, the work is going to be incredibly visible. There's going to be 1,000 to 3,000 people on a Friday night. There's going to be 1,000 people in the gymnasium. The work has to be really good, and it has to look professional, because everybody that goes to those events are going to see it. But not only those events, we had the social media in place, and we had the website in place. And so those avenues to distribute work were going to remain. And it's amazing to see that initially there's a fear and apprehension and anxiety of not only from the students, but from parents and administrators. Oh my gosh, we're going to put kids' work out there? Yeah. My answer is yes. Yes, we are. We won't put everything out there. We're not out there to embarrass kids. We're not out there to, show them all the bad stuff. We're out to celebrate the kids. We're out to celebrate their work and their hard work and their creativity and their masterful ideas. And so that's all I ever did in my career. I've maintained it. And so now what's exciting about this job is I'm taking those same principles from the classroom, where I had student after student every single year, whether they went on to college or careers after that had to do with media. A lot did and a lot didn't. But now to have other schools follow that idea and help them implement that idea in their school environment so that they're offering kids an opportunity that they might have not have been doing before.
You know what, Don? Let's stay with that moment when you get the scoreboard, right? What were some of the first steps you took to move your media class to like now is sports centered media? Like, you know, for someone who may be navigating that transition, or like, oh wow, we had a scoreboard too. Like, but how can we navigate this better? Like, what'd you do?
Well, to be fully transparent, I was like, oh gosh, I was not necessarily like thrilled, like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. It was like, oh my gosh, how much work is this going to be? Because we were already doing a lot of work. So I was like, okay, I had to get over that fear of how am I going to do this? And then it was like, I'm just going to go back into my roots. So I researched. There weren't a lot of high schools at that time that were doing it. And so I said, all right, well, we wanted to build kids for college or professional pathways. So let's research the colleges and let's research the pros. So I dipped into my collegiate network. I had some from D1 all the way to D3, you know, and colleges at that point at every level were starting to really purchase these boards as well and get them up and running. And so I dug in, and not only for what were they doing, but what kind of learning was involved. Where did it fall? Immediately, you know, my principal came to me and said, you know, you're the video guy. So I thought, okay, it falls under video or visuals in college. And it doesn't. It falls under the business department. So that was an eye opener. Okay, great. We're offering a specific skill then for business students, which is, you know, I don't know if it's still today, but a very large, you know, major to declare, a popular one to declare for college. So I was like, okay, that's a college route. But I wanted to, you know, I want to offer career pathways too. So fortunately for me, I had a really good friend, have a good friend, who is still as a director at Busch Stadium for the St. Louis Cardinals and runs the video board, the Jumbotron at Busch Stadium. And so I sat down with Mike and I said, Mike, tell me about your department.
Yeah.
And he said, Don, it's about the play on the field and the players, but it really is a game day environment. It's game day entertainment. And so everything that happens around the stadium, from the fans to the music to the food to the on-field stuff before the game, and, you know, minor leagues does in between innings, and football, and, you know, half times do all those types. So I was like, okay, that makes a ton of sense. So we really need to capture anything and everything that's involved with the game day, not just celebrate the play on the field or the floor. And so I took all of those ideas and I thought, okay, and then I, again, researched from my own experience of growing up, having season tickets to baseball games and attending football games and loving basketball games. What does that look like? And then I had to be like, okay, I don't know soccer. I don't know field hockey. I don't know that I need to be the expert at those, but I need to know about the game, right? I need to know like what's important in the game, and why do people go to the game besides the game itself? Like, what is it about that surrounds the game? So I started looking at all the different sports I knew our school was either going to support or might support someday, and getting familiar, but didn't feel overwhelmed like I had to know it. Like, I just wanted to know like some basics to really wow the fans. I wanted to make it a fan experience first. And through that, I was going to highlight and celebrate the athletes. I knew that would happen just inherently, but I wanted to make it really fun for the fans.
I think
so. I put these ideas together, man, and I just was like, all right, what is this going to look like?
I think that's such a deep insight. What you just said, it's not just about the play on the field. It's the game day environment.
Right.
It's like, and everything connected to that. And I can let you know firsthand as, you know, my son just graduated from there, and, you know, he's super pumped about the game day experience and the scoreboard when they're at the football games, and just seeing like all of the interaction, because you go outside, talk about some of the things you have students do that are not connected just to the play on the field that show up.
Well, see, that's the thing. So who are the fans? The fans are the students who want to celebrate and support their friends, or they're just fans of the sport. parents,
Yeah.
community members, staff, like then you have the band there playing. You have cheerleaders, you have dancers, you have groups that you're celebrating pregame and halftime, and you have and you have the spirit store, you have the booster clubs, you have the concessions, and those people. Then, if you capture graphics and photos and videos that you can celebrate as a part of the environment, the entertainment on the scoreboard, and then on your social media, now everybody in the community is seeing their face, hearing their voice, being recognized. Not just the game on the field or the game on the floor. Everybody is being celebrated. And really, when you're building a community, when you want school spirit, when you want that community to support what you're doing at the educational level, and I worked at a public school, so, we needed the public support in a lot of ways, obviously, to believe in what we were doing and that we were educating our kids. And as you well know, and, we want high school and school to be more than just academia, which it is. We want it to be a great learning environment for life. We want it to be exciting for these kids to remember and be a part of something. And so, that's really where it was great to kind of see, like, and for me, it was like, okay, well, these scoreboards, man, what it does more than just tell a score. It's telling a story. Yeah. And it's telling the story of our community. And that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Talk to me about how would you connect, like, okay, yeah, clear, we're out there capturing video and managing things Friday night or basketball game, whatever. What's happening during the class time? I'm curious, like what?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this was a little different philosophy for me. So when I taught media production, when I teach it, you teach kids how to use a camera, right. Whether it's the phone in their pocket or a nicer camera, and you teach them about photography and videography and maybe writing a script for a film, and you can set all those areas up in a classroom. Well, with sports, you have to have cameras on the field capturing the game action, because you've got to show highlights. You do have to show the team, but you also have to show what's happening in the stands and around the stadium or around the gymnasium and everything that's happening. So you have to have cameras. So you have to teach kids how to use cameras. We do that in class. But then you also have to trust the kids to go to those events and be able to do it on their own, because I wasn't able to go with them hand in hand, right? And coach them on what to do, where to go. So we talk all about everything that might happen at that event. And what you do, when you do it, what happens if. And so it's great, like problem solving, troubleshooting, scheduling, planning. But beyond that, once you are able to capture footage from a game, whether it's graphically, photography, or video, now you've got material that during class kids can learn how to edit. They learn editing skills. And so it's more than just putting images to music or sound. It's really about telling the story of a game, telling the story of the team, telling the story of the group organization or whomever is going to be there. And whether it's music or people talking. And so being able to, whatever you capture, then say, what can we do with this to make it look really awesome for the scoreboard and for our social media and for our school TVs, like what's going to grab people's attention, keep it and hold it for 50, 30 or 60 seconds and not longer. Yep. Nice short periods of time, teaching kids time management and viewing habits. And so there's so much media literacy that's involved with critical thinking and choices and all the different elements, to gain and keep our attention that we learn in the classroom that then becomes a part of the product that then is presented out and distributed to the community. So the learning really never stops in the classroom environment. And I joked, I've been doing training all summer and I would have, with other teachers, I'm like, well, what if I have a student say, well, Mr. Goble, I'm done. With this kind of work, you're never done, because the games don't end. The action doesn't end. The events in school don't end. And the one thing I love to do, and this has been a huge game changer and life setter for my kids, is I have them build an online portfolio. So they should be constantly putting their work on there, reflecting and writing about it and polishing it up, because I've had kids get internships and scholarships when they were able to present this online, looks like a magazine, not a website, but like a very interactive online magazine to admissions directors, to employers. So kids are working on that, and that's been a huge piece of the learning as well.
Okay, hold on. Okay, now we had this whole pre-conversation. You left this online portfolio part out, Don. That is, you have kids making this magazine. It's like what type of format is, like their videos and photos and reflections, written reflections? Like what share more like how the
For sure. So I wish this was my idea, but it wasn't. I was able to attend and visit Arizona State University in Arizona. I don't know, back in 2011, I think.
Okay.
And I met with the dean of communications, and I asked him, "What are the requirements you have of your college seniors?" And he said, "Well, one of the things they have to double major." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." So he's like, they're completing both majors. I'm like, "That's interesting." Mm-hmm. So one could be in journalism or some kind of media, but the other had to be in a subject area like foreign language or international business or whatever. And he goes, "The other thing they have to do is create an online presence, an online portfolio." So tell me more about that. Well, in the media business, back in my day, I would have to create like a sizzle reel, and filmmakers have to do that. Like your best work in a very short amount of time, basically pitching yourself, right? Like showing the best things that you've done, saying, "I'm capable of this kind of work. Show me what it is." And so it was not a tape in 2011, although we were still using like little mini DV tapes and DVDs. It now became an online website at the time. And so it was an About Me page. It was a page where they could show their videos and photos. And then it was a page to write about what were the lessons learned in those projects. Not necessarily what the video is just about. That certainly helps. So it gave them some writing experience. But I really wanted them to introspectively think about all of the lessons, all of the people that they impacted, how they were impacted. And so I got into that reflection writing. And I'll tell you at the time, that was the best thing I ever instituted in my classroom from a learning perspective, because when kids really had to think about the choices that they made, for good or bad or indifferent or left out, it really made them think about what they were going to do the next time. And so when I'm teaching mastery through replication and advancing skills, it's great to kind of think back of what we just did before we can move on. And as that advanced, I decided I wanted something more dynamic from a sports arena, because, online books were becoming a thing when I started this, in 2018, and I had already been a thing. And I'm like, okay, well, can I make a website look more like a book or an online magazine? So it's not just static pages in a column, but we could swipe, because everyone's swiping right on phones and anyway. And I'm like, let's swipe it on laptops, right? And mouse pads. So scrolling with the mouse. So that's what we did. And so kids can embed videos, they can embed photos. They are writing about all the lessons that they learned and maybe just a little bit about what the video is about, just to tease it like a caption. But I cared more about the technology they used, what went well, what went wrong, what would you do differently, who helped you, what was the impact you learned from those that you focused on with the video, and really get them thinking. So there was never a shortage of ideas to generate. And it's become this amazing learning tool for every kid who institutes it.
And I love that they walk away with the knowledge and the verifiable work. Like you said, that I performed, I created, and that's awesome, man. Like I'm really,
well, that's it, right? So I would have kids present this in interviews for colleges or jobs, and they'd be like, "You're doing what we want you to do."
Exactly. All right, so let's stay there. Let's stay there, Don. I know you have some amazing success stories. Anyone doing anything exciting career-wise? Let's start with career-wise, like who's working here or doing media here or there.
Yes. So I absolutely have newsmakers out there, journalists, reporting on television news and all over the country. I've got some filmmakers out there, music video directors, animators. Probably one of the more recent ones I'm really proud of a student now who's working that tried to go the college route and it wasn't for him. And he shared that with me even in his story back. So great kid I met in middle school, was a YouTuber back in 6th grade. And, a lot of our kids think they're YouTubers and TikTokers and they can do all of that. And in that environment, they can. But when he came into my class, he struggled at first because I gave him structure and direction of how to be a pro. And that didn't mesh with his freewheeling, carefree style, which I didn't want to get that out of him. But I wanted to really direct him down a way that I wanted him to feel most successful, give him the most opportunities, I thought, to be the most successful. So he bought in, eventually started doing really, really well, started becoming a leader in my class, got him involved with the St. Louis Cardinals fantasy camp. He became our chief editor of our show, ran some social media, did a lot of different things. And in fact, at one of the fantasy camps we did for the St. Louis Cardinals, which is a longer story for another day, but partner with local organizations, like find the teams, find the groups, find the companies who will allow kids to work with you, which we did with the St. Louis Cardinals. And we went to a camp, and one of the campers was Zach Brown, not the singer, but the CEO of McLaren Auto. Now, this kid was a car junkie. He loved cars, loved to race cars. And he's like, oh my God, Mr. Goble, Zach Brown is here. I'm like, go talk to him. He's just eating lunch with his buddies. Oh, I can't do that. Yeah, you can, man. Like life skill at 101, right? Just to go say hello. And we were talking before the show, just go ask. Yeah. I talked to you for a minute. And so he did. And they connected. And long story short, they stayed in touch. Austin decided to go to Columbia, Chicago, where he was accepted. And he went for 2 months, but he was so busy working on outside projects for customers and clients, doing an independent video business and social media, that he goes, time is money. And I was wasting both. And so he decided, I'm going to run my own business. And around the same time, McLaren Auto gave him a call while he's working in downtown Chicago. He was 19 at the time. He's 20 now. And they hired him as the director of marketing for McLaren Auto of Chicago. So because of his work, right? So academically, he was a kid who struggled. He was a kid who found himself in my area because of his creative passion and his drive to succeed. Like, trust me, no kid was more driven than Austin to succeed still.
Yeah.
And this major auto company realized it, loved his work, loved his personality, because obviously you can't work with people you don't like. So they clearly liked Austin, remembered him, and said, here you go. We want you to run with this. So to me, and I love keeping those relationships to be able to hear from him now to this day of how he's doing. And I check in with him periodically, and he's doing well.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that, and salute to Austin and McLaren. I think that's a great story because it starts with the student's interest, right? And the school offering that, having that opportunity, being connected to someone who could show them it at a high level. And then the networking of, because you were in the class, you were in the program, you went to Cardinals fantasy camp, you met a guy who just so happens to be, like McLaren, and you keep in touch. Like that's a great story of, education and community right there, man. I love it.
Yep. And, we really, now Austin, there's a lot of Austins that I've fortunately been able to work with, but it's really being able to push those kids to ask, just try, just stick with what you love and not be dissuaded at any way along the way when things don't go your way.
Don, I want to talk about the workshops, because I know you're trying to spread this knowledge, and you are spreading this knowledge across the country, helping other folks with it. But let's stay there with the Austin piece, because it's so career connected. Talk about some of the careers that are connected, the opportunities that are on the other side, degree or no degree, after having this skill set.
That's what I think has opened the door working with kids in the sports media world, because it does fall within business. And so marketing and PR and social media and advertising has really exploded for a lot of the kids, because they're working, creatively, graphic design and understanding story and writing by making them write. So all the elements, besides that, teamwork, collaborating, having to rely on others to make something larger than just yourself. Advertising, business marketing, PR has exploded from this area of study. And I've worked with other kids. There's so many different ways. Like obviously, television newsrooms look very different than when I was growing up through the business, but there's a lot of online journalism that is happening, from writing to photos to video, that happen all the time. The film industry has totally changed from maybe not going to the theater as much to creating these long form documentaries or streaming service shows that have really started to employ a lot of the students that I've worked with in the past in a lot of ways. So where they might have gone on a set to be like a boom operator, they're now doing it for 5 seasons of a television show that's running on Netflix. Yep. So when people thought, film is not the same, you're right, it's not, but it's just reshaping. It's just looking a little different. And so people who are still doing your traditional broadcast news, I have one student whose dream still is to do like a 90 minutes, narrative film. He's started and run his own business for over a decade, making music videos for bands out in California. And music videos, again, was big with the advent of MTV when I was a teenager. It's not something we watch all the time, but it's still a marketing piece to get music out there in a very saturated environment. And so he's made a whole business out of it. to a student I had who wanted to be a lifelong documentary filmmaker, worked for his buddy who's got the music video company in LA, met the right people. He's now a documentary behind the scenes guy for Will Smith's production company. Right. So you never know where that could possibly lead, right? And I'll even give you another story. One of the best students I ever had, the very first year when I started the sports program, media program, she wanted to go to college to be a doctor. Okay. And she's like, I'm going to study pre-med. I'm like, oh, but Caroline, you're so good at this. She's like, well, maybe I'll just apply to, try to work and make some money when time allows, when I go to school to be a doctor. So she did. She took her portfolio, got hired by the AD, made content for the outdoor stadium while she was studying pre-med. And I've had a bunch of other kids do the same thing. Like, this is a job now that universities and colleges are paying for kids to run game ops, to create content, and they can go study whatever it is they want to study. But, schools need this because every university and college and now high school almost in the country are getting these video boards. And they're like, what do we do with them? And we need professional content constantly. So the opportunities are widespread for a number of individuals when they have these skills. And I think mostly, Sylvester, it's because of all the softer skills I mentioned before of problem solving, critical thinking, the teamwork, writing, and just having, finding that passion and knowing how to work hard in short spans of time, which athletics and sports kind of lend itself to.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And it's, as you were saying all this, I was thinking about my younger cousin. He ran track at Mizzou. Mm-hmm. And his degrees in graphic design. And so he was working, he had a job in the athletic department. His internship was around making the graphics with the players and all of that stuff for all the different sports teams. And his first job now, he's like the lead graphic designer for the NHRA in Indy for the National High Rod Association. So it's like his stuff is on television and, on the social media seen by millions of people. So you're 100% right how it can be like what one thing may lead to the next and how powerful those portfolios are.
Well, if you think about it, we're in a visual environment, whether outwardly or inwardly. Every company needs to tell stories visually. And so I've had a lot of kids just getting hired internally at companies because they can make really great pamphlets, online designs, photos, short videos that are informative to, training videos. And it might not be the dream job, but these are skills that transfer to absolutely any industry, any environment. It doesn't have to just be in a big outdoor arena or on social media. Like, every company needs people who can tell stories visually. And that's what this and the content just changes. The skills don't.
The skills don't. Absolutely. With that being said, storytelling at the forefront, more schools adopting these, the digital scoreboards. Tell me, what are you doing? The success that you're having with the DS Academy. I know you just ran a big camp out in Pennsylvania, workshop series. So tell me more about it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing that up. So as an educator, one of the things I loved to do was I used to offer and provide workshops for teachers all over the country, working with Apple and Adobe Education. And it wasn't just, media teachers. I used to work with kindergarten through college professors on integrating media into their curriculum. And so I really wanted to bring that idea to digital scoreboards, who I'm working with now, because, these companies and schools are buying these digital scoreboards. And like me, they're asking a teacher then saying, like, well, what now? Like, how can we get you involved? And, frankly, I was prepared, but when I didn't know it, because I had the background in the media teaching education, but a lot of teachers don't. They love their school, they love their subjects, and now they're being asked maybe to do something that is unfamiliar to them. And so not only that, we really wanted to, a lot of these schools are buying the board, and then maybe they aren't getting students involved. Students aren't running game day. They aren't creating content for the boards. They're hiring professionals to create the content when they could be allowing kids to do it. So last week in PA, I brought together, there were almost 30 educators, from the superintendent, principal, athletic director to the teachers. It was a wide scope of who has an interest in what area as it relates to the scoreboard. And I wanted to just talk to them and show them some of these student success stories, talk to them about how they could implement it in their school. And I wanted I wanted them to see it. So I made them students for the day and put on their student hat and had them take some photos out at the field and talked about positioning and what to look for. And then we went to the gymnasium. And then this particular campus, Whitehall Copley School District in Pennsylvania, had a TV studio. They have a TV studio, which I love for kids to be able to learn from. So we went in there and we talked about the green screen, and I had them play on the green screen for a little bit. And I was like, okay, this is all great, but like, what do we do with this now? So we went back in the afternoon and we did a short little project. They could make a graphic or a short video with a like CapCut or some video software that has a template. They wouldn't have to learn a lot. And it was incredible, the product that they were able to create in like 30 minutes. Yeah. The idea was I wanted them to see, yes, it was simple, but how powerful it could be if we spent some time in teaching it. And now we don't want the superintendent, AD, principal, admin to have to do that. We don't want them to have to go out and pay professionals. Why not say, these are great skills. We had a lot of fun today. Look how much we learned. We need to have students doing this. And so that was the whole goal of the day, was to really encourage them. Many already had scoreboards. Some were thinking about it. The owner of our company, Chris Kern, our CEO, says like 53% of schools have a digital scoreboard. 47% are thinking about how to get one. So it's like, it's out there, right?
No, and it matters too, man. Like if you're trying, like when the game day attendance, like even if, depending on the school, like what students are coming or what athletes, it's so much, like the media experience is at an all-time high. And talk to me about this, because I think it's interesting, like you said, creating those graphics and the short form videos that can play during the game experience. Like, aren't there ad revenue opportunities, and even having the students creating, like then now students are creating real business opportunities that can help, be ad generating,
That's what was really eye opening for me coming over to this side of the business, is that the amount of revenue that schools are earning through advertisements on the digital scoreboard. And so while many of those companies professionally, whether they're local shops or national organizations, want their ads to run on the board, and they might provide that content, talk about learning opportunities to partner students with those companies. Maybe they start out by shadowing. Maybe they start out by interning. Maybe they don't create the content, but they're a part of the marketing pitch plan to identify what is a part of that content that is going to be played on the board. And then maybe as those kids get very skilled technically and they get older, juniors and seniors, maybe they are creating that content, for a local mom and pop shop who can't maybe afford a big budget commercial or graphic that could be played on a Friday night when 3,000 eyes might see it. And so that was what was eye-opening to me, was that it's that ad generation of revenue for schools to be able to afford those scoreboards. And if that's what's happening, let's use that as an opportunity to use it as an educational tool as well, not only for whatever, whether it's for business related, anything community related. It just makes all the sense in the world to me. And to touch upon one other thought that I had of a student another success story of a student who's in film school now for it, but he mentioned to me once, and he says in one of his videos, he learned through a chaotic environment that you really can't recreate necessarily in a classroom. Like we could try. Yeah. The chaotic environment of a Tuesday night basketball or wrestling or volleyball game, or a Friday night football game, or a Saturday afternoon baseball game. Like you can't recreate the chaos of not knowing what's going to happen on any given point, to be able to teach that student how to learn in that kind of, and then excel in that kind of environment. Yeah. But then maybe be able to see the rewards of it when it plays, on that big night. And maybe, if it's the local business or the team or the group that you've highlighted, and just the accolades that the kid feels when they successfully pull that off. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, Don. I'm really enjoying everything you're saying. I want to touch on one thing. Okay. Yeah. Let's go to the other side of this thing. Someone's listening. It's like, yeah, sure, Don, that worked for you. You got a background in media, but what advice would you give to that person who maybe has been handed this thing and they're feeling afraid or nervous
about how do we implement this and how do I create success? And I may not be that media expert person in that background. What do you have to say to that person?
It's a really great question, because ultimately that's kind of what we run into. And I'll tell you, I worked my whole career to be able to touch base and teach other teachers who did not have my experience from a professional standpoint, because I found two things. First of all, a couple of things. As a media educator, I was typically the only one in my school that kind of knew what I was doing, at least maybe for video. Like you have a photographer teacher, you might have a video teacher, you might not. You might have a graphic design teacher. We're kind of on a little bit of islands with specifically what we teach. And so every school might have one of those. And so I always try to kind of bring those ones together. And then when I decided to kind of do all of the different workshops and training I've done my whole career, it was always for the mind of just the person who might not have the media experience, but they were totally open to wanting to do it and or trying or allowing for student agency, for the student to take the initiative of the learning and not have to be the expert in it. And then they will grow along with students in the class as it happens. Even as someone who put this class together, Sylvester, the first 2 years, I was learning just as much along with the students, like what played, what worked in this environment. Did that work? What worked best? And a lot of the best projects organically came from the students and the knowledge that they brought that I didn't even think of at first. Yeah. But we allowed for a space like that. It wasn't just, I'm going to tell them what to do and they're going to do it. It was, we're in this together. What could it look like? So that took a lot of research and ideas that they had as well. So for a teacher who just, has an open mind and says, how are we going to tackle it? What's going to look best for our community? It's all about celebrating the community. And if you can have that mindset, that's what I teach my teachers. It's like, you're going to be successful because no matter what you do, the kids are going to create cool stuff. Yeah. It's all a matter of now where you can kind of tailor it and what you are able to accomplish with all of the other responsibilities we have as teachers, especially if this comes as a new responsibility. So my goal has been to build a program to support that teacher, not give them extra work necessarily, but find a way that they can weave it into the level that they are, where they're starting, and allow for growth opportunities for as much as they want to or have time for or are capable of.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of, if you build out a framework like that and have that mindset, I think any teacher would be successful in doing this.
Yeah, that's a big confidence builder, what you just laid out right there. Don, before I ask my last question, for anyone who's interested in connecting with you, who wants your support with the DS Academy or, getting one of these scoreboards, where would you send them?
So the best way is just go to digital scoreboards online, and there is an about us or a contact. You can just send a generic contact there. There's also a scroll down page to DS Academy. And if you contact the DS Academy page, that contact information would be sent to me, and I'll follow up with an email or a phone call if you want a phone call. I know the school year is getting back in session for pretty much everyone, if not now, right after Labor Day. So I remember the chaos that August brings. So if you don't have time, August, touch base with me sometime this semester on a professional development day when you have a moment to breathe and you might want to, investigate what's possible. So the website right now, Digital Scoreboards, is the best, and then they can reach me there.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. So last question, Don. I asked this to everyone, and I'm super curious what you're going to say. What is your vision for the future of career tech education?
Well, my vision is, I feel like it's slowly playing out, but it's not happening as robustly as I have always wanted it to. My goal always was, I feel like this kind of education, media education, is so important for every single student. It has consumed our lives for as long as television has been around. And yet here we are with an entire generation of kids that are entering our classrooms that have known nothing but mobile device in their hand from a very, year one or year two of their life, and they wouldn't know what to do without it. And as schools, I don't feel that we take as much responsibility to encourage kids on how to successfully learn it. In fact, there are many states now that are banning cell phones. Now, I'm not saying I'm against the ban, because trust me, I lived the world where kids would get burner phones and put one in the cubby pocket and then have the real one in their bag. And it was a constant, problem. I'm not naive. I totally get that. But what I'm saying is that even if it's not that, then maybe it's a camera or maybe it's a school issued device, and to understand the power that our kids have in their hands that they're going home to, and that to be fully inclusive to every single child that we meet. I think it's imperative for us to teach them about the images that they're seeing and the sound that they're hearing every single day, and be able to make some critical sense of it, whether that's sports related or not, whether it's the films we watch, the social media we watch, the TV shows we watch. Doesn't matter. I think all of it is super important. And I think we miss a real opportunity that every school does not have a specific class besides a media production class, writing or video or graphics, that even just discusses these issues and then allow kids to be the creators themselves. Because I'll tell you, my entire career, kids became more media literate when they started creating media themselves. Yeah. They saw they saw what it took to make in the kitchen. They saw all the ingredients and they think about things and watch things. I remember I would always feel like I had won. I was a success when a kid would come into my class and be like, Mr. Goble, you ruined television for me forever. Because they don't look at it the same way. They're watching it differently. And I was like, yes, that's great. That's a good thing. You will learn to enjoy it in a way, but not in the way you used to just mindlessly consume it.
Yeah, no, that's powerful, Don. I like that. And I appreciate you bringing up the media literacy standpoint. Yeah, that's powerful. Don, thank you for taking the time today. For everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, don't be selfish. Share with a friend who needs to hear it. And until the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.